If you've been scrolling through the news this week, well, when it comes to ICE and people reacting to it, you might have noticed a bit of a disturbance in the force. The simulation, it seems, is glitching. We're watching the rules of engagement change in real time, and frankly, it's been absolutely fascinating to watch. We have a convergence of events this week that seem unrelated, but they're actually the exact same story of people losing their mind when it comes to ICE. For one story, we have a Gen Z valet in Dallas called Gia, who thought that community protection and TikTok clout were valid legal protections against unemployment. Spoiler alert, they aren't. She decided to dox some federal agents, and she got fired. And now the internet is melting down because they don't seem to understand how the real world works. In another story, we have Don Lemon, yes, your favorite host and mine, a man who spent years on CNN lecturing America about norms and institutions. Well, Don decided to go to church this weekend, but he didn't go to pray. He went to chronicle a mob that decided to storm a sanctuary and disrupt church services. And now the Department of Justice is dusting off those old laws from 1871, laws designed to crush the Ku Klux Klan, and they're pointed square at him. We are watching a collision between moral righteousness, where you think you can do whatever you want because you're the good guy, and a legal reality where statutes don't care about your feeling. Today, we're going to break down that Dallas valet and why they're going to stay fired, why the National Labor Relations Act won't save her, and why the left's paranoia has reached such a fevered pitch that they're now harassing random streamers because they hallucinate federal agents on every corner. Let's grab a drink and let's get uncivil. Let's go to part one of our tale, Gia and the free speech fallacy. We start in Dallas with a story that's lighted up on TikTok. And you might have seen the video. A 20-year-old nursing student and valet named Gia posts a clip.
Hey guys, my name is Gia, and I just wanted to give a warning to y'all that there are ICE agents staying at the Hilton Anatole in Dallas. Quite frankly, I don't really care if I lose my job, because I could get in trouble for posting this. But honestly, I don't care because I care more about your families and about unity. So please warn your family if you or somebody who works here is worried about their immigration status. Please let them know. Okay, the Hilton Anatole in Dallas.
Now she's working at the Hilton, and she sees a guy in tactical gear checking in, and she realizes it's ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Now Gia is a woman who considers herself socially conscious, and she's upset about recent news, so she decides to play the hero. She pulls out her phone, films the vehicle, and says, quote, "Quite frankly, I don't really care if I lose my job. I care more about your families." She warns the community that ICE is in the building. Well, Gia, I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is that you went viral. The bad news is that you do get your wish. Town Park Hilton fired her immediately.
Gia's employer fired her and sent us a statement saying, "Town Park is aware of the situation at the Hilton Anatole. The associate violated our business conduct policy and is no longer employed by our company." Hilton Hotels and Resorts responded with a statement which says we respect the privacy of all our guests and addressed directly with the third-party parking company who has advised us that the individual is no longer employed by their company.
And now, of course, predictably, the internet is furious. They're screaming about First Amendment and whistleblower and illegal retaliation. Now, my friends, this is a good opportunity for us to have a teachable moment to those younger viewers who might have walked in here. The First Amendment restricts the government, and Hilton is not the government. It does not restrict a valet company, who is also not the government. Unless your boss is Uncle Sam, you do not have any free speech rights when it comes to work. You have the right to remain silent, or you have the right to be promoted to customer. Texas, like many jurisdictions, is an at-will state, and that means that your boss can pretty much fire you for any reason, as long as it's not illegal discrimination. And being anti-ICE activists is not a protected class in Texas or any other jurisdiction. Now, some of you might be saying, but Uncivil, people have been talking about the National Labor Relations Act and how it's been a violation of Hilton to do this. Well, Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act protects concerted activity for mutual aid. Now, what that means is that coworkers can band together to improve working conditions. In other words, to join a union. Gia over here acted to warn families. That has nothing to do with the workplace. That's simple political advocacy, not some sort of workplace organizational effort. Under the Essex test, pure political advocacy with no nexus to your job is not protected. Furthermore, under the Jefferson Standard Doctrine, you cannot act disloyal by disparaging your employer's product, and a hotel's key product is often privacy. Gia destroyed that. She leaked guest info to TikTok. That isn't some sort of whistleblowing. It's a breach of her employment contract. Gia got fired, and she's going to stay fired. Now let's pivot from that hotel lobby to a church sanctuary. We're going to talk about the red meat. We're going right to St. Paul, Minnesota. And if you haven't seen the footage, a group of activists stormed the city's church on Sunday.
Yeah. Renee, shady policy, shut policy. This is House of Dollars. Housing of the devil.
Their target was a pastor named David Esterwood. Why? Because as part of his day job, Mr. Esterwood is also an acting field office director for ICE. Now, when you protest, you might stand on a public sidewalk, and you can hold signs, and you chant. That would be the First Amendment. But this wasn't good enough for the group. They decided to go inside to the church, which is, of course, a private facility. They entered the sanctuary during a service. They shouted down the pastor, and they terrified parishioners, and they forced the service to a grinding halt. And who was walking in right with them? Don Lemon, with his camera crew in tow, claiming that he was just chronicling the event. Yeah, right.
This is an operation that is secret, that they invited folks out.
This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere, they don't expect us to come there, and then we disrupt business as usual.
So right now it's kind of mayhem. We're not part of the activists, but we're here just reporting on them.
Did they explain to you why they're here?
They did not.
They said that there is someone here in Easterwood, someone who is a member of ICE, and he's a pastor of the church.
Our church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday. We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left.
So this is what the First Amendment is about.
Now, let's pause and appreciate the sheer absurdity of all this. A church service is not a public town hall meeting run by the government. It is not a legislative session. For the people inside, it is literally a sacred space. But to those activists, and apparently to Don Lemon, it's just some venue. It's just another backdrop for their content. And this is as good a time as any to play the game of what if. Imagine for just a second that this wasn't a Christian church in St. Paul. Imagine that it was Friday prayers at a mosque. Imagine if a group of right-wing activists stormed into a mosque, shoes on, shouting down the imam, terrifying children, and shutting down the prayer service because they didn't like the imam's politics. And imagine, say, if Tucker Carlson walked in with them so-called chronicling it. Now, do you think Don Lemon would agree that that's a peaceful protest? Do you think that the media, including Don Lemon, would call it legitimate activism? No, of course not. They'd call it a hate crime. They'd call it desecration. They'd be demanding federal charges before the sun went down. But because it's a Christian church, because the target is an ICE agent, well, suddenly those rules about sacred spaces suddenly become a fair game. And suddenly the rules of decency are suspended because the right people are angry at the wrong people. Well, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights for the DOJ, Hamet Dilan, isn't playing that game. She's put Lemon and the activists on notice. She's dusting off the FACE Act, 18 U.S.C. 248. Now, if you're thinking that this law might sound familiar, it might be because the Biden administration actually tried to use this law to throw grandmothers into prison for praying near abortion clinics. But the statute explicitly protects religious freedom at a place of religious worship. and it protects against any attempts to intimidate or interfere. So you have to ask yourself the question, did storming a sanctuary and making children cry constitute interference? Well, it seems pretty obvious. So there's a real problem there on that FACE Act. But just to add that little extra bit of schnell, the real kicker here is another law, the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. The DOJ can argue that the animus here was against Christians or religious believers as such. And of course, being Christian or any other particular religion is a protected class. If the Trump DOJ successfully pivots to use this law to prosecute the left, well, that will be a narrative inversion of the highest order. Now, Don Lemon's defense is going to be, I'm just a journalist. I was just watching. But I'm not buying it. If you help to plan the bank robbery, drive the car to the bank robbery, and walk into the bank to do the bank robbery with the robbers to film it, you aren't a documentarian, you're an accomplice. And I think that's the case here. Don Lemon turned himself into an accomplice, if not a conspirator, and I think he's going to find out the hard way. The law's going to bite him in the ass. Now, for our final story today, I want to talk about something that connects all this together. It's the story of a person named Connor. Connor is a streamer on the service named Kick.
Are you law enforcement?
No, why?
Are you law enforcement?
No, why?
Are you law enforcement?
Bro, is this a simulation? Oh, is this like one of those
Law
ice things or something?
Cool, thank you. Good to know. Are you law enforcement? I'm just gonna grab your car here.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Do you have your flashers on? Are you law
How'd you know I was law enforcement? What gave it away?
Your blue lights were flashing, friend.
Oh, no way, dude. Look at her vlogging away. Look at her. She thinks she's onto something. Look at her. Oh my God. Look at her. She thinks she's onto something. Look at her. My blue lights were flashing, by the way. Let's see my blue lights. With a fucking mannequin in the front seat. That is hilarious.
Now, he was wearing a tactical vest, sunglasses, and he had a radio. And he might look to someone like he was LARPing as a Fed. But he wasn't arresting anyone. He wasn't stopping traffic. He wasn't performing any law enforcement duty. He was just walking around and existing. And yet, watching the video of his interaction with the public is like watching a zombie movie where the zombies are infected with that brain virus called political Twitter. Random civilians, activists, ICE watchers decided to swarm him. They started to film him and got in his face. They're screaming at him. They're accusing him of being an ICE agent, of being a Fed and a fascist. Now think about the stupid psychology in play here. These people just see a guy in a vest and their brains short circuit. They don't see someone wearing a vest and they don't see a streamer. They see the enemy and they see someone they're willing to call a Nazi. And apparently that makes them feel justified in harassing him, following him, and trying to drive him out of the public square. And that's what happens when you spend 5 years telling an entire generation that silence is violence and that they are the main characters in a war against fascism. They start seeing ghosts. They start seeing enemies in every shadow. They harassed this kid so much that actual police had to get involved. Now, some people are claiming that Connor violated federal law by doing a false impersonation under 18 U.S.C. 912. Now, did Connor break the law? To violate the statute and falsely impersonate an officer, you have to falsely assume the character of an officer and act as such. It is not illegal to put on a mere police uniform. If it was, every party city who sells cop uniforms would have a problem. And every male stripper who puts on a cop uniform as part of his act would be in violation of the peace. That's dumb, and of course it's not the law. Connor never said that he was ICE or any other police officer. He didn't perform any acts of a police officer, such as giving orders or trying to arrest anyone. So no, he was not falsely impersonating anyone. But here's the irony of the whole thing. The anti-fascist activists turned out to be the one acting like police because they were the ones demanding papers. They were the one conducting an interrogation on a public sidewalk of someone they thought to be suspicious. So who's acting like the police now, my friend? All three stories that we've covered today just prove the left has lost its mind. They are so desperate to fight the oppressor. If they can't find a real one, they'll find a kid in a tactical vest and scream at him until the cops show up and try to have to restore order. I also find it very ironic that the left is trying to blame Connor for what he was wearing. I didn't think, but she was asking for it because of what she was wearing was a defense. But apparently to the left, it suddenly is again, if it's the right people. The reaction to Connor proved that for a lot of people, politics is not policy. It is not a consistent, uniform idea applied uniformly. Instead, for a lot of people, it turns out to be more of a mental illness. It's a paranoia that says everyone who doesn't look like you is a threat that must be neutralized. So what is the through line here? What connects Don Lemon, Gia, and the mob chasing Connor? Hubris and a total detachment from reality. Gia, for example, thought that mere moral outrage overrode her employment contract, and she's wrong. Don Lemon thought that press somehow gave him a pass to override the sanctity of a church, a literal safe space if there ever was one. And as for Connor, the activists chasing Connor thought that political anxiety gave them the right to police the streets. But the legal system is not a moral compass. It is a machine and a grinder. The machine doesn't care if you're punching up or punching down. It just reads the code. And right now, the code says that private property rights matter, employment contracts matter, and trespassing in church is unsurprisingly a federal crime. Now, on this channel, we're going to be watching the Don Lemon indictment very closely. If the DOJ actually drops the hammer, which looks likely, we'll be back with a full breakdown of the indictment. And as for the rest of you, make sure to read your employee handbook sometime. Stay off private property if you're not invited. And if you see a guy in a vest, maybe just keep walking. If you want to know what the law actually says, rather than what Twitter and TikTok wishes it says, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I've been Uncivil Law. And remember to keep it uncivil out there. Cheers and goodbye.